Welcome back to Rise and Resilience. Have you ever been told that kindness is the key to living a happy, successful life? What if I told you that too much kindness could actually ruin your life? Sounds unbelievable, right? But stay with me, because I'm about to share with you the hidden truth that most people don't talk about. If you're ready to hear the uncomfortable reality behind kindness, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Kindness is often regarded as one of the most admirable qualities a person can possess. It's the force that drives us to help others, to be considerate, and to offer our support without expecting anything in return. From a simple compliment to lending a hand in times of need, kindness creates bonds, fosters goodwill, and nurtures a sense of community. In many ways, we are conditioned to believe that kindness is always the right answer, the key to creating harmony in our lives and the lives of others. However, there's a side to kindness that is rarely talked about. What happens when kindness becomes a way of life, a constant drive to put others before ourselves? When we give without limits, when we say yes even when we should say no, when we try to please everyone at the cost of our own well-being, we may unknowingly set ourselves up for challenges. Kindness, in its most extreme form, can have unintended consequences, ones that could leave us emotionally drained and disconnected from our true needs. Kindness is one of the most universally cherished virtues. From the moment we're born, we are taught to be kind. We hear phrases like, treat others how you want to be treated, it's better to give than to receive, and a little kindness goes a long way. These lessons become deeply ingrained in our minds, shaping how we interact with the world around us. In many cultures and religions, kindness is seen as a pathway to personal fulfillment and connection. It is the bridge that connects us to others, the bond that unites us as human beings. At its core, kindness is an expression of empathy and compassion. It's a way of recognizing the humanity in others, of offering a helping hand, a kind word, or a thoughtful gesture. When we show kindness, we make people feel seen and valued. We create spaces where people can feel safe and supported. The world seems a little brighter when we extend kindness, and it often comes back to us in ways that build our relationships, deepen our connections, and uplift our spirits. But what if the very thing we've been taught to do to build better lives, stronger communities, and more meaningful relationships could actually, in certain circumstances, lead to unintended consequences? What happens when kindness becomes less about genuine compassion and more about pleasing others, about seeking validation or avoiding conflict? What happens when kindness becomes a tool to gain approval or a shield to hide behind in fear of confrontation? It's then that kindness, though well-intended, can take on a more dangerous form. Over time, as we give and give, without consideration for our own needs, we begin to lose pieces of ourselves. We start to feel that if we don't say yes to every request, if we don't always put others before ourselves, we are somehow failing. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that kindness must be endless, that we must constantly show up for others, even at the expense of our own well-being. We may ignore our own boundaries, neglect our own goals, and put aside our own dreams, all in the name of being nice. But here's the catch: when we give without boundaries, when we sacrifice ourselves for the sake of others, we don't always receive the same level of care or appreciation in return. Instead, we may become overburdened, overwhelmed, and ultimately resentful. The kindness we once freely offered may become a source of exhaustion, frustration, and burnout. We might even begin to question whether our kindness is truly making a positive impact or if it's just leading us down a path of emotional depletion. It's a paradox, isn't it? The very quality we've been told is the key to success, happiness, and harmony could, if misused, become the thing that holds us back from living fully and authentically. It's not that kindness is inherently bad, far from it, but we need to understand the deeper layers of what it means to be truly kind. True kindness isn't just about giving to others, it's also about knowing when to set boundaries, when to say no, and when to put ourselves first. Because when we fail to take care of our own needs, we can't fully give to others in the way we want to. In a world that often emphasizes selflessness, the real challenge is understanding the balance between caring for others and caring for ourselves. True kindness doesn't ask us to sacrifice our well-being, rather, it asks us to extend compassion in a way that respects our own limits and honors our own humanity. Only when we embrace this balance can kindness be the force that elevates us and those around us. Kindness is often celebrated as a virtue, a powerful tool for building connections and improving lives. It is seen as the antidote to hatred, conflict, and indifference. But there's a hidden cost to being too kind, one that many people overlook in their rush to help others. In fact, sometimes the very thing that makes you a good person can also lead to emotional exhaustion, resentment, and even burnout. The more we give, the less we may have left for ourselves. The problem arises when kindness becomes a reflex, a default response to every situation. We say yes even when we don't want to, we give when we don't have the energy, and we put others' needs before our own, time and time again. Initially, it feels good. Helping others gives us a sense of purpose, and we get validation from making others happy. But over time, this relentless giving can deplete our emotional reserves. We begin to lose sight of our own needs and desires. When kindness becomes a routine rather than a conscious choice, we risk putting ourselves in a position where we have nothing left to give. This constant cycle of self-sacrifice can have serious consequences. When we neglect our own needs to care for others, we're essentially running on empty. We may feel physically drained, mentally fatigued, and emotionally disconnected. But the cost doesn't stop there. The more we give without taking the time to recharge, the more likely we are to feel resentment. The kindness we offer is no longer a gift, it becomes a burden. And when we're overwhelmed by this sense of exhaustion, it's easy to fall into negative thought patterns, like feeling unappreciated, underappreciated, or even taken advantage of. This hidden cost doesn't just affect our emotional well-being, it also impacts our ability to pursue our own goals. We can find ourselves so wrapped up in meeting the demands of others that we lose sight of what we want for ourselves. Our personal dreams and ambitions may take a back seat to the needs of others. And over time, this pattern of putting everyone else first can result in feelings of unfulfillment. We look around and realize that while we've given so much, we've neglected to nurture our own growth, passions, and aspirations. The people around us may appreciate our kindness, but we may end up feeling empty, disconnected, and unsure of who we really are. In a way, being too kind can also affect the way others view us. When we constantly give without setting limits, we can inadvertently train those around us to expect our kindness without appreciating it. They begin to take it for granted, and our acts of kindness no longer feel special or meaningful. Instead of creating stronger bonds, we might find that we're being taken advantage of, manipulated, or even ignored. And that can be incredibly painful. The hidden cost of being too kind is not just the toll it takes on your time, energy, and resources, it's the quiet erosion of your sense of self. You lose the balance between caring for others and caring for yourself. You forget that kindness isn't a bottomless well, but a gift that should be given thoughtfully and with intention. True kindness requires strength, boundaries, and self-awareness. Without those, you risk giving away so much that you lose the very essence of who you are. Kindness and boundaries may seem like contradictory concepts at first, but in reality, they go hand in hand. While kindness is about giving, understanding, and supporting others, boundaries are the invisible lines that protect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. The truth is, without boundaries, kindness can quickly turn into people-pleasing, self-sacrifice, and burnout. When we don't set limits on how much we give, we end up giving everything, and that's where the danger lies. Boundaries are not about being selfish or unkind, they're about recognizing that we are finite beings with limited time, energy, and resources. We cannot continue to pour from an empty cup, and we cannot meet every need or solve every problem. Boundaries ensure that we give from a place of strength, not depletion. They protect our emotional health and ensure that we are still able to nurture ourselves, pursue our goals, and maintain our own happiness. When we fail to establish boundaries in our relationships, our kindness can be exploited. People may start to expect more than we're able or willing to give. We might find ourselves saying yes when our instincts tell us no, and compromising our own needs for the sake of others' comfort. Over time, This can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and burnout. What once felt like an act of generosity can begin to feel like a chore, a task, a responsibility that we don't have the capacity to take on. The more we give without boundaries, the more we may start to feel taken for granted or even invisible. Boundaries also allow us to teach others how we want to be treated. When we set clear, respectful limits, we send a message that our time, our energy, and our presence are valuable. We teach those around us to respect us and our needs just as we respect theirs. In a way, setting boundaries can actually enhance the kindness we offer, because it ensures that we're giving in a way that is sustainable, thoughtful, and meaningful. It helps us avoid becoming overwhelmed by demands, and it keeps our relationships balanced, healthy, and fulfilling. Setting boundaries doesn't mean we stop being kind or caring. It simply means we're choosing to be intentional with our kindness. It means we're deciding to give in a way that honors both our own well-being and the needs of others. It's about finding a balance where we can be there for others without losing ourselves in the process. And most importantly, it's about recognizing that we deserve to have our own needs met too. Kindness should never come at the expense of our own mental health, emotional peace, or personal growth. The power of kindness combined with boundaries is that it allows us to give with purpose and balance. It enables us to show up for others in a way that is sustainable and healthy, while also respecting our own needs and desires. When we honor our boundaries, we empower ourselves to be kinder, more compassionate, and more present in the long run. By setting limits, we ensure that our kindness remains a positive force in our lives and the lives of others, rather than a source of resentment or depletion. Always putting others first is often seen as a selfless, noble act. We are taught from an early age that helping others, prioritizing their needs, and being available for those we care about is the right thing to do. And in many ways it is. But the truth is, when we consistently put others before ourselves without ever taking a step back to evaluate our own needs, we set ourselves up for a series of consequences that can quietly chip away at our happiness, our health, and our sense of self. The first consequence is burnout. Constantly saying yes to every request, every favor, every need without regard for your own well-being leads to exhaustion physically, emotionally, and mentally. You may begin to feel like you're running on empty, stretched too thin, and disconnected from your own desires and aspirations. The energy you once had for your passions, your goals, and your self-care starts to drain away. As you become more focused on the needs of others, your own needs are neglected. This can leave you feeling depleted, overwhelmed, and frustrated, but also with a growing sense of resentment. You might begin to feel that no matter how much you give, it's never enough, and that can wear you down even further. The second consequence is the loss of personal identity. When we make it a habit to prioritize everyone else, we often lose touch with who we are and what we want in life. We become so consumed by the needs and expectations of others that we forget to ask ourselves, what do I need? What do I want? What makes me happy over time? This can lead to a feeling of being lost or disconnected from our true selves. Our dreams and aspirations take a back seat to the demands and desires of others, and we begin to define ourselves by what others expect of us rather than by who we really are. The more we neglect our own growth, the more we may feel unfulfilled, as though we're simply going through the motions of life without ever truly living it on our own terms. Another consequence is the creation of unhealthy relationship dynamics. When we constantly put others first, we may unintentionally teach people to take us for granted. They begin to rely on us for support, for answers, for solutions, without recognizing the toll it takes on us. We can inadvertently train people to expect us to always be available, always willing to help, and always prioritizing their needs over our own. Over time, this can result in an imbalance where the relationship is one-sided, leaving us feeling underappreciated, unacknowledged, and even resentful. We may also start to feel like we're being used rather than truly valued for who we are as individuals. The fourth consequence is a slow but steady erosion of self-worth. When we focus so much on serving others, we may begin to base our self-esteem on how much we can give or how much we are needed. If we're constantly looking for validation from others by fulfilling their needs or expectations, we can begin to feel that our worth is tied to our ability to please them. This creates an unhealthy cycle where we only feel valued when we're serving others, and we forget to nurture our own sense of self-worth independent of others' approval. Over time, this can lead to a deep sense of emptiness, as though our worth is only defined by how much we can do for others, rather than by our inherent value as a person. Lastly, always putting others first can hinder our personal growth. When we're constantly catering to the needs of others, we put our own development on hold. We may not pursue opportunities that help us grow, whether professionally, emotionally, or spiritually, because we are too focused on supporting everyone around us. Our potential remains untapped, our goals unachieved, because we've allowed ourselves to become stuck in a pattern of endless giving without receiving anything in return. We may look back one day and realize that years have passed and we've made no progress toward our own dreams, goals, or personal growth. The consequences of always putting others first are far-reaching and profound. While kindness and generosity are important qualities, they must be balanced with self-care, boundaries, and an understanding of our own needs. If we continuously give without regard for ourselves, we risk losing our vitality, our sense of identity, and our joy. To live a fulfilling, meaningful life, we must learn to put ourselves first, not out of selfishness, but out of a recognition that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Only by caring for ourselves can we truly give to others in a way that is sustainable, loving, and authentic. Kindness and burnout may seem like two concepts that don't belong together, yet they are intimately connected. In a world that encourages us to be selfless, compassionate, and always there for others, it's easy to overlook the fact that kindness, when taken to the extreme, can lead to exhaustion, emotional depletion, and ultimately burnout. While offering help, support, and care is a beautiful thing, it becomes problematic when we continually give without considering the toll it takes on our own well-being. The roots of kindness-induced burnout lie in the idea that we must always be available to others, always putting their needs ahead of our own. Whether it's a friend who constantly needs a listening ear, a family member who requires help with their responsibilities, or a colleague who leans on us for support, the demands of others can quickly become overwhelming. At first, it might feel good to offer our assistance. We might feel appreciated, needed, or even validated by our willingness to help. However, as the requests keep coming and the sacrifices continue to mount, we may find ourselves running low on energy physically, emotionally, and mentally. One of the key contributors to burnout is the failure to set healthy boundaries. When we don't establish limits on how much we give, we become susceptible to giving until we have nothing left. We may feel guilty for saying no, or we may worry that others will think we don't care if we don't always show up for them. The problem with this mindset is that it neglects the simple truth that we too have our own needs, and we cannot constantly pour into others without replenishing ourselves. As kindness turns into a pattern of perpetual giving, we begin to feel emotionally drained. The kindness we once offered freely now feels like a chore. What was once a source of joy becomes a burden. We may begin to experience feelings of frustration, irritability, and even resentment as we struggle to meet the ever-growing demands of those around us. Our well-being takes a back seat, and before we realize it, we've neglected our own health, passions, and dreams in favor of fulfilling the needs of others. The more we give, the less we have for ourselves, and this imbalance creates the perfect breeding ground for burnout. Burnout from kindness doesn't just affect our physical energy, it also takes a toll on our mental health. Constantly giving to others without taking time to recharge can lead to feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and depression. We may begin to question why we're doing so much for others without receiving the same level of support or appreciation in return. This lack of reciprocity can leave us feeling undervalued, invisible, and disconnected from the people we care about most. Additionally, kindness and burnout often feed into one another in a cyclical pattern. When we're burned out, we may feel like we have no energy left to help others, leading to feelings of guilt or inadequacy. We might then push ourselves harder, ignoring our own needs in the hope of meeting someone else's. This cycle of overextension, followed by emotional depletion, becomes exhausting and unsustainable. It's crucial to recognize that kindness does not mean giving until you have nothing left. True kindness involves caring for others while also caring for ourselves. It means understanding that our emotional and physical well-being are just as important as the well-being of those around us. We must learn to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to make time for self-care. It's okay to step back and replenish our own energy before offering support to others. By taking care of ourselves, we are in a better position to give from a place of love and compassion, rather than from a place of exhaustion and resentment. Kindness and burnout can coexist, but only when kindness is not practiced with awareness, balance, and boundaries. By recognizing the warning signs of burnout, emotional fatigue, frustration, feelings of resentment, we can take the necessary steps to protect our own mental health and well-being. We don't need to give all of ourselves to others in order to be kind. We need to honor our own needs and recognize that true kindness is about balance. When we care for ourselves, we are better equipped to care for others in ways that are sustainable and fulfilling without sacrificing our own health or happiness. True kindness is often misunderstood. Society paints a picture of kindness as simply being nice, helpful, and putting others first, no matter the cost. We are taught to give selflessly, to always be available for others, and to avoid confrontation at all costs in the name of being kind. But this view of kindness, while well-intended, is incomplete. It misses the deeper, more nuanced aspects of what it really means to be kind, and it can often lead to emotional depletion, resentment, and a loss of self. One of the most common misconceptions about kindness is that it means saying yes to everything, no matter how much it drains us. The idea that kindness requires endless sacrifice can lead to a pattern where we are constantly putting others' needs before our own, even when it is not in our best interest. We may feel guilty for saying no, worried that refusing someone's request might make us seem unkind or selfish. But in truth, true kindness is not about sacrificing our own well-being for the comfort of others. It's about offering support and help in a way that is sustainable and healthy for both parties involved. Another misunderstanding of true kindness is that it means avoiding conflict at all costs. Many people believe that being kind means never challenging others or speaking up when something is wrong. But kindness is not about avoiding difficult conversations or pretending that everything is okay when it's not. In fact, true kindness often requires us to have tough, honest conversations, even if they are uncomfortable. It means standing up for ourselves and others when needed, setting boundaries, and addressing issues directly, rather than letting them fester under the surface. Avoiding conflict may feel like the kinder option in the moment, but it often leads to resentment and misunderstanding, both for ourselves and for others. Additionally, there is a misconception that kindness always has to be grand gestures or acts of service. We often think that to be kind, we must go out of our way to help others, donate money, or offer our time and energy in big ways. While these acts of generosity are certainly valuable, true kindness is not always about big gestures. It's often about the small, everyday actions that show we care. It's about listening attentively when someone is speaking, offering a genuine compliment, or simply being present for someone when they need support. True kindness doesn't have to be loud or attention-grabbing. It can be quiet, humble, and rooted in authenticity. One of the most important misunderstandings of kindness is the idea that it is only for others. People often believe that kindness is a one-way street, that it's something we give to others, but not something we give to ourselves. However, self-kindness is just as important as kindness to others. In fact, if we don't practice self-kindness, if we don't show ourselves the same compassion, patience, and understanding that we offer to others, we risk burnout, self-resentment, and emotional depletion. True kindness involves recognizing our own needs and honoring them. It means being gentle with ourselves when we make mistakes, offering ourselves forgiveness when we fall short, and giving ourselves the space to rest and recharge. When we are kind to ourselves, we are better equipped to be kind to others. Finally, there's the misconception that true kindness requires us to always put others before ourselves, to be constantly available, and to sacrifice our own happiness for the sake of others. In truth, true kindness involves balance. It means recognizing that we can care for others without losing ourselves in the process. It's about knowing when to say no, when to set boundaries, and when to prioritize our own well-being. Being kind doesn't mean we have to give up our own happiness. It means we can share our happiness with others without diminishing our own sense of self. The misunderstanding of true kindness can lead us down a path of self-neglect, emotional burnout, and unfulfilling relationships. But when we understand that kindness is not about endless sacrifice, avoiding conflict, or grand gestures, we can embrace a version of kindness that is rooted in balance, authenticity, and self-care. True kindness is about offering love and support to others while also honoring and nurturing ourselves. It's about giving from a place of abundance, not depletion, and recognizing that kindness is not a finite resource, but a way of living in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. So, my friend, don't let kindness be the thing that holds you back. Be kind, but be kind with wisdom. Be kind with boundaries. Be kind to yourself first. Because when you do, you create space for real happiness, real success, and real fulfillment. If you've learned something valuable today, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me how you've experienced this in your own life. And remember, kindness is a gift, but only when it's given with balance and love for yourself first. If any of this hit close to home, let me know in the comments. I want to hear your experiences and perspectives on how kindness has shaped or challenged your life. And remember, subscribe for more real talk. You deserve a voice in this conversation.